In order to correct my habit of vying for affection, my family unanimously decided to send me into the deep mountains for reformation. Even my fiancé agreed with this approach. In less than a year, I went from a high and mighty young lady to a timid and cowardly village fool. The day they came to pick me up, I was huddled under the banyan tree at the edge of the village, and the mischievous children were throwing stones at me, leaving my face covered in blood, and I could only smile foolishly. Seeing this scene, the parents blurted out, "What are you pretending to be pitiful for?" After the doctor examined me, he found that I was both blind and mute and that there were also issues with my mind. They finally realized the existence of the problem, but it was too late. I had become so foolish that I could no longer recognize these so-called relatives of mine. The doctor has already lost hope that I can be cured. I was sent back to the Zhang family. My parents avoid me all day long, afraid to see this fool of a child. I only wanted to cure my obsession with vying for affection, yet it has left me, and it has left me, either human nor ghost. Now everyone in the circle is mocking them, saying they are unworthy of being parents. Even my brother suffered backlash. The young lady who was originally to be betrothed to him, upon learning that I was turned into a fool by my own biological parents, would rather jump off a building than marry him, fearing she might end up in the same predicament as I did. My cousin, who has always seen me as a thorn in her side, no longer dares to speak ill of me. Even though she remains the apple of my parents' and brother's eyes, she doesn't casually bring me up anymore. Today, I am like a thorn stuck in their hearts, no one can mention it. After I became a fool, Aaron came to see me a few times and felt quite sympathetic towards my plight. He promised me that no matter what I become, I will always be his future wife. Everyone started to care about me, but they do not know that I want to kill them at every moment. That year in the deep mountain valley, I felt worse than death. Endless beatings, torment without an end in sight. Both the body and the mind are tormented. Their light and airy apology was of no use. Not to mention that as time goes on, their guilt will surely wear off, and by then I will just be a burden they can discard at any moment. Time proved my guess to be correct. In less than 2 months, my family planned to send me to a sanatorium for a long stay. Aaron's mother, Meredith, also came to the door demanding to cancel the arranged marriage or else change the betrothal to have my cousin, Sarah, marry Aaron in my place. Sarah's biological mother was a barmaid who, back in the day, climbed up the big tree that was her uncle, thinking she could turn her life around by getting pregnant. However, she ended up giving birth to a girl who was Sarah. Her uncle was displeased that she had given birth to a daughter and sent them away with a sum of money, after which he never bothered with them again. Ad felt sorry for the mother and daughter, secretly helping them out. After Sarah's mother passed away, he even brought Sarah back home to raise her. At first, Mom's attitude towards Sarah was lukewarm, until one day the house caught fire and Sarah rushed into the room through the flames, crying out to save her aunt. Moved by her, Mom began to reflect on her own behavior and raised Sarah as if she were her own daughter. Later on, whether it was my parents or my brother, they all led on Sarah like a precious gem, and before I knew it, my position had been replaced. After that, I developed a liking for competing for Sarah's affection, but I was far from her match. Her tears were like sharp swords, shattering all my counterattacks. For long, my parents and older brother grew to despise me. I once thought that no matter how much they hated me, they wouldn't harm me until I was sent to the deep mountains. Sarah's mother's identity is, after all, not honorable. Our family is also reputable, and it is impossible to marry a woman whose birth mother is a prostitute. However, Aaron really likes Sarah, and she has grown up under our watch. She is good-looking and capable, but her background is just too poor. Meredith's voice broke through my memories. Mom understood what she meant and immediately said, "I have always regarded Sarah as my own daughter. If you look down on her background, I can adopt her as my foster daughter." Meredith was not satisfied and said, "There's no need to go through all that trouble. Your daughter has already—" Halfway through her sentence, Meredith glanced at me not far away. sighed and shook her head. She's already a fool, knows nothing at all. It's better to let Sarah take her place. It would be more fitting. Mom was taken aback for a moment, clearly not expecting that Meredith had this idea. At that moment, a voice came from the stairs. I think this idea is good. Anyway, we already planned to send Olivia to the sanatorium. At worst, we can take care of her for the rest of her life and let Sarah take her place. This not only gives Sarah some confidence, but also satisfies the union of the two families. A win-win situation it is. It is Dad's voice. I instinctively looked up and saw my father with a heavy expression. They didn't know that I could see things long ago. I just hadn't fully regained my voice and didn't want them to find out too soon. Mom hesitated. Olivia just can't recognize people for now. What if she recovers in the future and finds out we left her in the nursing home and stripped her of her identity? She won't be able to bear it. She is filled with guilt. The person who resolutely sent me to the mountain valley for re-education back then was her. The reason is that I am competing with Sarah for the position of first violinist. Many people know that Sarah's skills are not as good as mine, so there is no way I could be eliminated. But Sarah had the demeanor of an older sister, as if to say she should give way to her younger sister, informing the whole family that she would not compete with me for the position of first violinist. The whole family was moved by her generosity, while I was so angry that I argued with her for a few moments. Unexpectedly, she suddenly fell down the stairs, fracturing her right hand and unable to participate in the competition. I became the sinner who pushed her down the stairs, receiving slaps from both my parents in turn, and even my brother hated me, telling me to get out of the house. I desperately explained, but all I got in return was them covering my head and sending me to a mountainous area where there was hardly any signal. They found an old woman to look after me, telling others that I was her granddaughter sent back for not behaving well outside. On the very first day of my arrival, the old woman gathered a few other elderly ladies to teach me a lesson, tormenting me until there wasn't a single good spot left on my body. There was no such thing as resting to heal. By the third day, I had to go work in the fields. Having never seen farming tools before, I became proficient in using them in just half a day. Or else I wouldn't even be able to eat a steamed bun. When I was brought back, I was meters tall and weighed less than pounds, so thin that I was just skin and bones. The doctor said she cannot return to normal. Dad dispelled Mom's concerns with a firm tone. Mom hasn't spoken yet, and at the door, Thur's voice came through, tinged with tears. Aunt, don't be sad about me. I won't take Olivia's place. I know my own limitations. Brother followed her, seeing her cry. Quickly comforted her. Sarah, you are just like Olivia. You are both a part of this family. Sarah shook her head in tears. It's different. From childhood to now, the phrase I've heard the most is, you little bastard. Even Olivia led the way in spreading this at school. My background has always been shameful and I long for a complete family. She cried with tears like pear blossoms and everyone present was moved, especially her mother, who quickly walked up to Sarah and embraced her tightly. Sarah, starting today you are my biological daughter. No one can bully you, and in a month, you will get engaged to Aaron under the name Olivia. She ultimately agreed. Sarah hugged her mother with a face full of happiness and sweetly called out. Mom nodded in response, lovingly stroking her head. This scene deeply pierced my eyes. Perhaps it was because my face was always turned towards them that my brother noticed me. As he walked over, he saw my dazed expression and the disgust in his eyes lessened a bit. This must be retribution. If only you had been a little less jealous of Sarah and a little more magnanimous back then, it wouldn't have turned out like this today. But then again, you wouldn't understand my words. From now on, take good care of your injuries in the sanatorium. After all, you are a member of the one family. Taking care of you for a lifetime is still not a problem. Retribution. It was they who sent me into the mountains to suffer. The ones who have made me neither human nor ghost are them. In the end, they casually brushed over their harm to me with the words retribution. Indeed, I cannot be soft-hearted. That night, a fire suddenly broke out at home. The fire started from the kitchen and due to its ferocity, It quickly engulfed the adjacent storage room. The sea of flames merged into one, leaving the first floor with no escape. When the parents were awakened by the smoke, the fire had already reached a point where it could not be extinguished. They ran barefoot to their brother's room in Sarah's, calling them awake. Sarah's room received no response, and her mother, anxious and scared, threw herself against the door, disregarding the danger to her life, until she finally broke it open. After Sarah was awakened, the four of them jumped from the second-floor balcony into the pool to be rescued. I live in the attic on the second floor. No one calls for me, and no one remembers me. When the firefighters arrived to put out the fire and asked if there was anyone inside, Mom and Dad looked at my brother and Sarah beside them, shaking their heads and saying, "Everyone has escaped." The nanny cried as she rushed to the firefighter, "There's still one person. My young lady didn't escape. She's in the attic on the second floor. The fire on the first floor is too intense. I've tried several times but couldn't make it up there. Please, you have to save her." The hair on the nanny's forehead had been burned away, and her entire face was blackened by smoke. She lived in a small house outside the villa, and to save me, she rushed in several times, but the fire was just too fierce. It burned so much that she couldn't open her eyes and her lungs couldn't breathe. She could only retreat. Why? She stood downstairs, calling out to me loudly in the direction of the attic. When she heard the sound of diving from the swimming pool, she almost tumbled over herself to see if I had been rescued. When she realized I was gone, she once again wanted to rush into the flames, but it was then that the firefighters arrived and she stopped, pleading with them to save me. With a bang, the sound of an explosion echoed through the villa. Firefighters rushed in to rescue people. A few minutes later, when I was rescued, I was trembling all over, my hands tightly hugging myself. When my parents saw me like this, they exchanged a glance, both recognizing the awkwardness in each other's eyes. At the critical moment of life and death, they all forgot about me. "She hasn't been home for so long that I momentarily forgot." Dad gave an explanation. "Yes. Plus she lives in the attic. That place is too small. I didn't notice it for a moment." Mom originally wanted to echo Dad's words, but when she mentioned that my living space was too small, the expression on her face became even more awkward. As her biological daughter, I could only live in a stuffy and hot little place in the attic, while Sarah could stay in the spacious bedroom with the best light. In comparison, her heart was not just biased. At that moment, Sarah cried out, "Mom, it's all my fault. If I had known this would happen, I should have lived with my sister so we could look out for each other." As soon as she said this, the guilt in her mother's heart instantly vanished, and she comforted her. "Sarah, you don't need to blame yourself. It was just an accident. Besides, she's fine. So, don't be sad." Beside me, the nanny held me close, checking me up and down for any injuries. Seeing my hands and feet cold as ice and my face filled with panic, her eyes were filled with concern. During their conversation, the nanny gritted her teeth and could no longer hold back. "Mrs. One, your own daughter almost burned to death, and here you are comforting an outsider who is completely unharmed. As a mother, this is the first time I've seen someone like you." Mom was scolded by a nanny and her expression was very unpleasant. Many neighbors had gathered around, and at first everyone thought that my mother was a great person for caring so much for her niece. However, after hearing the nanny's words, they began to discuss among themselves. "No wonder some say this family's mind isn't right. While others spend a lifetime escaping the mountains, they willingly send their own daughter into the mountains to suffer." So their daughter was tormented to the point of being neither human nor ghost. A normal person turned into a fool, which shows just how terrifying the torment she endured was. I see that their whole family has been cursed by that niece. Otherwise, how could they do such a brainless thing? Could this fire have been set by them themselves? Burning their own biological daughter could erase their foolish actions. The voices of the crowd were very low, but the night was quiet. and they drifted into their ears one after another. Dad was furious, glaring at them with wide eyes. You know nothing. So stop talking nonsense. We sent Olivia for reform because we hope she becomes better. Come on. Forcing your own daughter to become a fool and still having the face to say you want her to be better? The mocking voices of the crowd grew even louder. It's all my fault. Don't say anything about my uncle and aunt. They are both good people. They took me in and let me. They took you and yet you want to take their daughter's place? You really are shameless. Someone interrupted her directly. I didn't. Sarah cried with a pitiful face, feeling very wronged. Don't give me that nonsense. This family has been fooled by you. Pat, it's their blindness. We won't be deceived. Someone like you, a scheming lowlife, can't trick fools, but you can't fool us. Everyone looked at her with eyes as if they were looking at something filthy, filled with disgust. Brother's eyes blazed with fire. Enough, Sarah did nothing wrong. Why should she endure your verbal insults? Everyone, shut up. Most of the people present were from the business world, the kind that you don't see when you look up, but do when you look down. Her parents wouldn't dare to fall out with them, but the older brother loudly confronted them. Seeing this, everyone shook their heads and left. They did not care to meddle in other people's affairs. They only felt pity for me and spoke a few extra words. Little did they expect to be reprimanded by a younger generation. Since that was the case, they would certainly not utter another word. The afternoon of the second day, we had just moved into another residence. My brother's fiancé's family came to our door, and this time they were determined to cancel the marriage between our two families. The last time I was brought back, my brother's fiancée saw my miserable state with her own eyes. After she went back, she vomited for 2 days and had nightmares for several days. In the end, she couldn't take it anymore and resorted to jumping off a building to plead with her parents to abandon the arranged marriage. Her parents initially disagreed until last night's fire when someone told them the whole story. The couple, after careful consideration, decided to abandon their marriage alliance, despite their best efforts. Mom and Dad ultimately could not prevent the end of the marriage between the two families. My brother was angry and said to that family, "Don't think that just because your family's business is a bit bigger, you can bully me. One day, I will trample you underfoot." Before the couple could say anything, their daughter retorted, "With a fool like you think you can step on my family's toes? Do you really think you're something special? If it weren't for your grandfather, you wouldn't even have the right to marry into my family. Grandpa is a business genius, having started from scratch, and he arranged a marriage alliance between my brother and me. Unfortunately, both my uncle and my father are mediocre talents. Not only did they fail to expand the family business, but they also divided the family estate, managing it separately, leading to its gradual decline. His brother was criticized to the point of feeling worthless, filled with both anger and anxiety. But he knew very well that his current fiancée was the best choice he could find. At that moment, Sarah jumped out and accused the girl. "You wouldn't have some wild man outside, would you? My cousin reads you so well. How could you bear to give up this relationship?" Faced with her accusations, the girl slapped her across the face without saying a word. "What nonsense is this? How dare you speak recklessly in front of me and tarnish my reputation?" The brother suddenly erupted, raising his hand as if to hit the girl, but her father grabbed his wrist. "What do you want to do, in front of me? Hit my own daughter? It was she who hit Sarah first, so what if she hit her? Who told her to have a dirty mouth? From what I've seen, my daughter is still too kind. She only slapped her once." As soon as the man finished speaking, the girl slapped Sarah several times, causing her to lose her balance and fall to the ground in a disheveled heap. "Hoof, a cheap person should be dealt with like this. I warn you. If you dare to spread rumors about me outside, it won't just be a few slaps." The girl was very smart. She could tell at a glance that Sarah was the type to spread rumors behind people's backs. So she first made her stance clear. She would repay any grievances. Mom's face was filled with anger. Are you here to protest at my house? Cancel the marriage alliance, beat my daughter, and you're not afraid of retribution? The girl's mother scoffed coldly, her face full of disdain. Even if there is retribution, it should fall upon you. Look at your own daughter, tortured by you to the point of becoming a fool. How can you have the face to speak of retribution? In an instant, everyone's gaze fell upon me in the corner. My foolish appearance made the girl's mother choke on her words. As a mother myself, I truly cannot understand your actions. Palm was taken aback and had no words to refute. In the end, the marriage alliance was called off. After they left, Sarah threw herself into her brother's arms, crying so hard she could hardly catch her breath. While comforting her, the brother was also thinking of ways to deal with that family, cursing and grumbling incessantly. In the end, he vented his anger on me. It's all this fool's fault. If she hadn't come back, the marriage alliance wouldn't have been cancelled, and I wouldn't be looked down upon by others. Mom frowned. You should say a little less. After all, she is your own sister. I don't have a sister like her. Sarah is my sister. Mom didn't say anything more, tacitly agreeing with his statement. A few days later, something happened at the family company. A government project that was originally a sure win was snatched away by other companies. This project is very important to the company as it concerns the profits of the next 2 years. The entire company has invested a lot of effort and financial resources to obtain this information, only to have it snatched away by someone for over $1 million. When Dad learned about this, he was so angry that he ended up in the hospital. My brother was also taken aback, completely at a loss. Mom immediately sensed that there was a mole, so she sent more people to investigate the company's surveillance and eventually discovered that only Sarah had entered Dad's office during that time. The company's upper management suspects Sarah of being a mole and demands that her mother conduct a thorough investigation of her. Mom didn't believe that Sarah would do such a thing, arguing rationally on her behalf. The higher-ups felt that her compassion was misplaced, and with the failure of the project competition, the company was very likely to go bankrupt. One by one, they submitted their resignation letters. Mom was anxious and had no choice but to ask Sarah. Sarah cried after hearing this, and in front of a crowd of executives, was about to jump off the building to prove her innocence. Mom immediately felt a pang of heartache and turned to advise Sarah to calm down. Seeing this, the higher-ups were extremely disappointed, which further solidified their thoughts of resigning. A week later, the night before I was sent to the sanatorium, Sarah suddenly confronted me, her haggard face filled with fury. You're not a fool at all. You stole the documents Dad left in the study, told the rival company our bottom line, causing us to lose this major project. How cruel you are, wanting to ruin the company just to get back at Mom and Dad. She shouted louder and louder as if she wanted to convict me quickly. I remained expressionless, my gaze lazily falling on the birds outside the window. With a loud bang, Sarah slammed her fist on the table, startling the birds into flight and causing the branches to tremble. I averted my gaze. Their eyes met, and Sarah's face twisted in surprise. You really can see. I cleared my throat and replied in a hoarse voice. I could see it last week. Didn't Aunt Lou tell you? Outside the door, Mom and Dad exchanged glances with my brother. A few days ago, Aunt Lou was cheerful all day, wanting to talk to them, but they interrupted her many times. In the end, they even scolded Aunt Lou, telling her that as a servant, she should know her place and meddle less in the affairs of the master's family. It turns out that Aunt Lou wanted to tell them about this matter. So, it was you who stole Dad's documents. You don't need to rush to convict me. I have another thing I want to ask you. I secretly investigated this matter for a long time, and yesterday, I finally obtained an accurate result. Your mother had an affair with my father. The reason your uncle doesn't want you isn't because he dislikes that you're a girl, but because he knows your mother is promiscuous and you are not his biological daughter. My voice isn't loud, but I can ensure that the person outside hears it clearly. Sarah was suddenly anxious. What are you talking about? Although I have always regarded my uncle as a father, he has no blood relation to me. You are so eager to explain. It seems you are in the know. No wonder you can come and go from Dad's office freely, while even your brother has to get his permission to enter. You must be favored by Dad, who probably feels guilty towards you. Saying this, I pulled out a paternity test report from the drawer. This is what I received the day before yesterday. You are indeed my father's biological daughter, and there's no denying that. As for whether you knew it long ago, I don't care. Sarah picked up the paternity test report and wanted to tear it up, but her mother rushed in from outside, snatched the report from her hand, glanced at it, and her gaze landed on the words confirming their biological father-daughter relationship. She was so furious that she stumbled and nearly fell to the ground. Dad hurriedly explained, "Honey, let me tell you." Mom screamed and gave him a hard slap. "What else is there to explain? You've deceived me for over years. Are you even human?" Dad had always held himself high above others, but at that moment, being slapped by Mom in front of the younger generation made him feel humiliated, and he couldn't help but angrily shouted at her, "Enough! Can you stop acting like a shrew? If it weren't for you arguing with me back then, making me feel bad, I wouldn't have gone out drinking, and I definitely wouldn't have met that woman. She's as gentle as water. Any man would make a mistake." Mom stared in disbelief, her eyes wide open. "It was clearly your fault. How dare you turn around and blame me? You deceived me into raising your illegitimate child for over years. What a wild child!" "She is still my daughter," Dad admitted himself. Mom clutched her chest, gasping in anger, and finally fainted. My brother hurriedly stepped forward to support our mother, urging me to call for an ambulance. I remained indifferent and turned to leave. This farce was spread online by someone I found. For a moment, the mockery surged like a tide, sweeping the Wan family away. It's truly laughable, treating an illegitimate child as a treasure while treating her own daughter like grass. This mother is simply like a clown. I heard that last time their house caught fire, the Wan couple protected their precious son and escaped with the illegitimate child, leaving their own daughter in the sea of flames. Don't the people upstairs know? They once personally sent their own biological daughter to the mountains to be abused, saying their daughter was competing for affection with a wild child, wanting to correct her habit of vying for attention. Who would have thought that they would end up tormenting their own daughter into a fool? That fire was probably set by them, wanting to burn away the stain. Damn it, is there not a single normal person in this family? So the brother of that family's fiancé broke off the engagement, which can be considered as having saved a little life. The next morning, Meredith brought Aaron to the door. Dad guessed their intentions and brought up what Grandpa had said back in the day, but who would have thought Meredith would respond? "Your family is a joke now. We can't let ourselves be laughed at too, can we?" Dad gritted his teeth. "Sarah is also my biological daughter. Letting her marry Aaron is also a match of equal social standing." What a perfect match in social status. You know better than I do what her mother does. She's dirty, and she's not much cleaner herself, knowing her own identity. She managed to keep her true self hidden for years, which shows just how deep her scheming goes. As the lady of the good family, one needs a certain level of sophistication, but not this kind of cunning. Who knows if it will bring disaster to our good family in the future? Meredith's words are harsh, but they are the truth. Aaron also returned the token of their engagement to Sarah, saying beautifully, "The one I am betrothed to is Olivia, and now that Olivia has announced her severance from your one family, that engagement is naturally void." Sarah was very confused and questioned Aaron. "Didn't you say that the person you love is me? Now that my status is more deserving to stand with you, why have you abandoned me instead?" Aaron looked at him with disdain. "We have never been together. How could there be abandonment? Sarah thought that revealing her identity would be beneficial to her, but she didn't expect to be met with nothing but storms and no advantages at all. Dad does not agree to break off the engagement. Meredith left a remark. The casual words of the older generation don't count. After they left, the father was so angry that he ended up in the hospital. My brother alone couldn't support the company, and with the severe loss of senior management, the company soon faced bankruptcy. Sarah originally wanted to take the opportunity to enter the company, but unexpectedly, she was rejected by her brother. Her brother, who had never refused her before, spoke harshly for the first time. You don't have the qualifications to enter the company. Sarah still wanted to play the Green Tea Act, but her brother wouldn't fall for it, remaining tight-lipped, and the two nearly had a falling out. My brother can accept that Sarah is our uncle's daughter and that they took her in as kind-hearted people, but he cannot accept that she is our father's illegitimate child. After deeply realizing his debt to me, my brother had someone find me and deliver a letter. I had already blocked the entire family and left that home. Inside the envelope, there was a bank card and a letter filled with writing. I didn't read a single word. I just burned it. As for that bank card, I checked the money inside and there was only $1 million. It was clear that the Wan family had truly fallen from grace. Money I will accept, but an apology I do not accept. After waking up, my mother searched everywhere for me. She seemed to have gone mad, barefoot on the street, shouting my name repeatedly, saying she was sorry, and was captured by the media. However, no one sympathized with her. Everyone felt that she brought it upon herself. More people believed that a late love is worth less than grass. After Sarah was unable to enter the company, she turned to her father, insisting that he arranged for her to join the company, claiming that she was also a part of it. In the past, Dad felt guilty towards her and favored her in everything. Now, with his wife gone and his children scattered, he finally woke up to the reality and realized that it couldn't go on like this. He asked Sarah to leave, promising to give her a sum of money as compensation. Sarah disagreed, and the two had a huge argument. When the nurse came to check on the patients, Dad was lying on the floor, unconscious. After being rescued, Dad narrowly escaped death, but he was completely disheartened. He wrote his will in advance, stating that all the family's assets would be divided equally between my brother and me. After learning about this, Sarah actually tried to run over her father with her car on the day he was discharged from the hospital. Her brother was quick to react and pulled their father out of the way just in time, but Sarah injured another person who was being discharged. The person had just finished surgery and happily returned home only to unexpectedly suffer misfortune at the hospital entrance. The man's family was furious, dragging Sarah out of the car and giving her a severe beating. The person needed another surgery, but the results were not as good as the first time, leaving serious after effects. After Sarah was arrested, her father did not come forward to bail her out, nor did he hire a lawyer for her, leaving her to fend for herself. Her brother did the same. Not long after, Sarah was sentenced to 3 years in prison. The company ultimately could not escape the fate of bankruptcy. In an instant, it returned to poverty. My brother wants to make a comeback and asked me for that $1 million. I had long anticipated that he would go back on his word, so I left early. At this moment, I am in the southernmost part of my homeland. There are seas and mountains here. The environment is beautiful and the cost of living is low. I opened a coffee shop here. Because I make delicious desserts, the business is doing quite well. Although the shadows of the past still cling to me in nightmares, I have learned to smile. Life is getting better and better. One day, a customer was watching television where a news report was playing about a former wealthy lady, Mrs. Wan, who pushed her husband into the river and both of them perished. Hearing this news, I felt no ripple in my heart. At that moment, a customer ordered coffee, and I casually switched tables, turning to smile and ask the customer what they would like to drink. The wind chimes on the windowsill are ringing. Outside, the weather is warm and sunny. Savoring the aroma of coffee, listening to the melodious music in the shop, looking at the small amount of money that came in today, My life is right in front of me, ordinary yet relaxed.